Welcome back. It's Kasim and John with Solutions 8. And did we name this last time? Didn't we, John? You said like Kasim and John talk or advanced Google
Kasim and
Ads.
John, advanced Google Ads with Kasim and John. I think that's what it was.
Welcome back to Advanced Google Ads with Kasim and John. We'll get better at that. Yeah.
We'll remember next video, I think.
Yeah. Today we're talking about RLSA. So if you're watching this video, I have to imagine you kind of know what that is because you searched for it. Unless you're just running through our video list, which good for you, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, what is RLSA? Why do we care?
So RLSA stands for Remarketing List for Search Ads. And it's kind of a, like when you think about it, like how do you do remarketing for a search ad? And it's based off of your users that have been to your site that are still searching. And it's a way for you to make sure that you're showing up at the top for those users if they've searched for something, been to your website, didn't convert, and later on say, you know what, I'm going to look for this again, and they start searching either the same keywords or keywords very similar. It makes sure that it puts you back at the top to say, hey, Big Yo, remember me. And it was
not strictly remarketing. It's kind of remarketing, but inside of the search ecosystem.
It's like remarketing. It's like, oh, you've been to our website before. Now we're going to be showing up at the top for that same search for a keyword that we're bidding on. So it does take into consideration remarketing. That's why the remarketing list for search ads, but it's not proactive. It waits for them to do it again and then make sure that you're placed very high. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And not really like the how to set it up, but our strategy around it.
Yeah, so it's really a bid adjustment in a lot of ways, right? It's like, I want to pay more for this type of demographic. I want to pay more for this geography. I want to pay more for someone who's seen my site before or clicked on my ad before.
Yeah, I mean, and let me share my screen before you give away all the secrets.
Sorry. I like to sound smart because then you like steal all the smart thunder and I've got nothing to say.
No, you're exactly right though. And so again, privacy. So you're not going to see the name up here, but I wanted to share with you how we use it. So I'm going to go into this campaign here, and we're going to look at the audiences. As the audiences is going to share with us the audiences that we're currently observing and or targeting. And let me filter by or sort by audience. Now you'll see that there's a lot of different type of audiences in here. We actually have 42 of them because it's by ad group. And what's interesting is you'll see that we have car rental, homeowners, rental, vehicles. The audiences for this client are relevant, but what you'll see here down at the bottom is one that says all visitors AdWords. Now what we're doing is we're only targeting, or not targeting, we're only observing all visitors that have come from Google Ads, not all visitors from other areas, because this client has many different service offerings. But the service offering that we're trying to target is something that we already market for. So we know that if the person came to the website from Google Ads before, it's contextually in the way, it contextually appropriate to remarket to that user with the same keyword. So you don't want to take necessarily all visitors, because if you're remarketing to all visitors and not just the AdWords, it says AdWords, not Google Ads, but not the AdWords visitors, you could get a mixed bag of people who have maybe interest in more than one type of KPI, I guess you would say, more than one type of conversion or more than one type of service offering. So we went specific to only the people that came from Google Ads before. And what you'll see here is we have the advanced, or the bid adjustment is going to be plus 45. Now 45% more. We're okay with it because the cost per click is not very high. We're looking at $2 and $3 after the 45% increase. But what's nice about this is not necessarily a terribly competitive ecosystem in Google Ads. So placing a 45% bid adjustment saying I'll pay 45% more if they've been to my website, did not convert, and are looking for a company like us again. And what's nice about this is looking at the audiences. If you sort by conversion rate, you'll see that out of the top 5, 3 of them are previous visitors, and because we have a 45% bid adjustment. So 6%, 5, 4, and 3%, and then it goes down to 3, 1, and then the other observations don't have that much data. This is only back from March 1st. But in this one campaign, 3 out of the 5 top converters is that RLSA audience. And what's interesting about this, if you said, well, if you didn't set a positive bid adjustment, would you still have gotten those? Probably not, actually. We're paying a lot extra to become the number 1. And when it's not very competitive, there's someone that could easily outbid us and then, when that person comes back in with the interest of hiring a company like this or working with a company like this, we could have easily just lost that individual because we didn't want to pay 80 cents for the few clicks that happened. So remarketing list for search ads is really a really good strategy. It is a little bit of an advanced strategy. I know some pretty decent Google Ads managers just from a client side who we've taken over their accounts that are very savvy in Google Ads and still didn't use RLSA or didn't know how to set it up or heard about it, wanted to try it, but didn't really know what the benefits was. So want to give a very specific use case as to why you should run RLSA and why it's a good idea just to say, hey, you already paid $2, $3, $4 to get them to your site the first time. Why not just pay 40% more to make sure that they convert? They kind of making sure that money's well spent.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So where does RLSA not work? It occurs to me that you might end up in a situation where you get really clicky prospects, and at a certain point you want to start pushing them away. Like if somebody's been on my site 6 times, I don't know if I want to pay for that click anymore.
Yeah. Well, you can actually set an exclusion list based off analytics. So some of the ways that we use more advanced exclusion lists from analytic lists is bouncers. So people that spent less than 5 seconds on the site, you can imagine if your bounce rate is 60%, 40% of those people would be in your remarketing list. So excluding the people that, less than 5 seconds, less than 10 seconds, if you exclude those people, you can run RLSA and also exclude the people that bounced or exclude the people that have been to my website 10, 15 times. We might have a long sales cycle. So 5, 6, 7, 8 visits may be normal, especially if you have a big corporation and everyone's trying to, review your website and it's all coming from the same quote unquote IP address. Could, end up shooting yourself in the foot if you were too strict with that rule. But if you have 10, 15, 20, we can exclude those people from developing that audience in analytics and then importing that as an exclusion list here in Google Ads.
Yeah. Would you ever have a negative bid adjustment on this particular type of audience? Have you ever had to build that out?
I don't really do it on observation much, just because observation is so broad. For RLSA, no. Not really. I've never had I can't think of anything that I've ever built a negative.
About our property agency, we had a motivated seller agency for a while, and I can see there specifically in the space where we're looking what is your home worth? Mm-hmm. That if you're a non-converter the first couple times, then I'm starting to think that maybe you're just one of those folks that is more interested in information than you are in services, and I'm gonna start pushing that type of click away. I don't know. It's conceptual. I'm just curious.
No, yeah. I would probably for that specific scenario, I'd do the keyword. If the keyword has bad results as a whole, maybe just not bid on that keyword. If it has a lot of clicks and low conversion rate, could be people that are just kind of clicky. Or look at demographics. So if you find that the most clicks but the least conversions come from the 18 to 24 group, and you're really best off working with the plus 40 crowd, maybe start removing some of those that prove that they have not converted.
That goes back to our video yesterday, which if you haven't seen it, it's on advanced UTM strategies. You need to really track who's converting and what they're doing post-conversion so you can make these types of adjustments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not to kind of get off too much on a tangent, but if we look at demographics here, you can see clicks, 25, 35, 45, it starts to go up. Now let's compare that to conversions. 45 to 54 have the most amount of clicks, least amount of conversions. Now, what you have to look at is it still within your parameters? And right now, we're trying to spend $2,000 and we're able to spend $1,200 a month. So we're just struggling because this is not a very competitive and a very specific type of industry. So I'm not going to push away just the one conversion that came from this. So it's okay. Just because this also could be people that will post ads, untrackable click. Very, very interested audience. So we may exclude this and find out kind of our calls started to die off a little bit, even though they were being tracked. But you pick up a different phone and you call. That's a way that you could lose that conversion. So I would say give it data, give it time before you start making these type of adjustments. Don't just say, 65 plus are never going to be where my conversions come in. And all of a sudden, bam, it was actually one of your great conversions. And the way that
that's such a good example, because looking at this, if you would have made me guess, I would have assumed 45 to 54 is your single highest value demographic. And I mean, not to say that it isn't here per your point, but I mean, look over at 55 to 65 plus, and both of those seem to be really efficient.
Yeah, well, that's what's funny too is just because the target demographic you don't believe is your product fit may not be actually what takes place. And one of the reasons is this type of crowd is in the 45 to 54 range. That's the bread and butter of this client, for our client. But the 25 to 34 converts very well. Well, why would that be? Or 55 and 64 converts really well. Why would that be? Well, if I have a father who is struggling with an issue and I'm the son or daughter and pulls out my laptop and I start Googling and say, hey, Dad, let me help you. Or, hey, Mom, let me take care of this for you. And I find the ad. I wouldn't have found the ad if I excluded the person that was actually searching on behalf of the other person. Large corporations, you might have an intern doing research on trying to find a new vendor for something, but you're like,
How
oh,
much do
18
you
to
trust
24.
these numbers because I remember Facebook's numbers were all purchased, not all, but a significant amount of Facebook's interest-based segmentation data, demographic data was purchased and then appended to these contact records. It's not that Facebook actually knows this; it's they think this by proxy. What is Google doing here? Do you know?
This is crowdsourced through AdSense majority of the time. And what's kind of funny is what that means. Okay, let me give you a scenario. Have you ever been to Etsy.com?
I have.
You are now an 18 to 24-year-old female, according to Google.
I see what you're saying. So they're building a profile based off of common denominators and then making educated assumptions, which to be honest with you is a pretty darn smart way to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. And then, or like, how
dare you back me into that definition?
I wanted to find an excuse to call you a little girl. So, but yeah, it's, so they basically say, well, like, who visits Etsy? Well, a majority of our users are female and between the ages of 18 and 24. And Google says, okay, great. Anybody that visits this website, it's a point in that bucket for this may be this person's age and sex. So it's a very, loose way of gauging it. Now, if you visit over 300 websites, you can see how that starts to become pretty accurate. Whichever the most target demographic fits in your profile matches to say this is probably who that person is. But I wouldn't exclude a whole audience right off the bat. I would want to see the data first.
Sure.
So making
and honestly, even if the demographic data isn't correct, it stands to reason that even if this person isn't 45 to 54, they search like they're 45 to 54, so I'm going to advertise to them like they're 45 to 54.
Yeah, exactly. And then if your age range is usually 45 to 54 and it just doesn't happen to be converting that well, but it's not throwing off the numbers too much or costing too much, or maybe I don't really care who searches as long as we spend the budget and try to get as much as possible, then there's a reason to not exclude. So there's outside factors that will sway that decision. Now, one thing I could say is if you said this is a retirement community and it's 65 older and I can only speak to the person who's going to be here and that blah, blah, very, very strict. And then you say, I don't think 18 to 24 is going to work, and you run it and it doesn't work, then, if it proves right, then you can exclude it after you get the data in. But that's just, one way to say, like, if you think if you're pretty much positive that's not the right audience, don't exclude it right off the bat, wait, and then exclude later.
No, this is great. This is great. I think we should spend another video dedicated to the demographic information that Google provides and how to slice and dice it, because this is huge.
That's a great idea. We'll do that next.
Awesome. If you're watching and you have questions, comment and we'll answer them because we're awesome. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it. If you didn't like it, shut up because nobody likes you.
Please no thumbs down.
Right. Just don't. It's so passive aggressive. And I didn't mean to tell you to shut up. And subscribe and hit John's bell because John likes the bell.
I like bells.
Yeah. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thanks, y'all.